From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. The Trump administration has finally agreed to begin the transition to President-elect Joe Biden. That announcement came after Michigan certified its election results confirming Biden's win in the state. Natalie Brand reports from the White House.
The General Services Administration has ascertained Joe Biden is the apparent winner of the 2020 election, meaning the formal transition process can begin. In a letter to the president-elect, GSA Administrator Emily Murphy formally offered to begin coordinating a transfer of power. This follows a standoff that started more than 2 weeks ago after CBS News and other media organizations projected Biden as the winner.
Van Langveld.
Yes.
The decision came hours after Michigan certified Biden's victory and 2 days after a judge dismissed a Trump campaign lawsuit aimed at stopping Pennsylvania's certification. On Twitter, President Trump indicated he supports the GSA's decision, but he's still not conceding. The president says his fight continues, and he says he believes he will prevail. President-elect Biden was already moving forward with the transition, naming key cabinet picks today. He's chosen Tony Blinken to be nominated for Secretary of State, Jake Sullivan as National Security Advisor, and Linda Thomas Greenfield to be nominated as the next U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. If confirmed, Alejandro Mayorkas would be the first Latino American and immigrant Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, while Avril Haines has been tapped to become the first woman nominated for Director of National Intelligence.
Why'd you go with national security first?
Because it's national security.
There are reports President-elect Biden is expected to nominate former Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen as his Treasury Secretary. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Well, the head of the Biden transition team called the GSA's move a, quote, needed step to begin tackling the challenges facing our nation, including getting the pandemic under control and our economy back on track. Well, with the transition of power to a new president comes a flurry of new appointments. And one of those departments affected is the U.S. Attorney's Office. Today, the U.S. Attorney for Montana, Kurt Alme, announced his resignation effective next week. Alme was recommended by Senator Steve Daines and nominated by President Trump in June of 2017, then confirmed a couple of months later. Because it's a political appointment, the president can keep or remove any U.S. attorney. Montana counties report 22 more COVID-19 related deaths today. The most deaths are out of Cascade County, where health authorities reported 9 victims. Gallatin County reports 3 additional victims, and here in Yellowstone County, 2 more. 114 Yellowstone County residents have died from COVID-19 related illness, as the statewide death toll has now reached 644. Montana also saw more than 1,200 new cases today, while more than 40,000 people have recovered from the virus. And here's a look at the breakdown. In Yellowstone County, the age range with the most COVID-19 cases is from 20 to 39 years old. Between the dates of September 20th and November 8th, 20 to 39-year-olds consistently had the most new cases of any age group week to week. In the second week of November, this group made up 37% of the county's new cases. The next highest age range, 40 to 59-year-olds at 27%. And it's clear that cases are on the rise across the county. For the week of September 20th, Yellowstone County saw 366 new cases. 6 weeks later, for the week of November 8th, the county confirmed 1,064 new cases. More than 100 traveling nurses and respiratory therapists have arrived in Montana to help fill critical staffing shortages at Montana hospitals, and many more are on the way. Governor Steve Bullock announced today that the state is working with a Seattle area firm to bring the badly needed personnel into Montana. 110 medical staffers arrived through last weekend. Another 170 are expected here by the end of the week. Most of the help is focused in the big hospitals in Billings, Kalispell, and Great Falls, but they're also going to hospitals in Missoula, Butte, Bozeman, and Livingston. The Montana National Guard also has activated 58 members to help with non-medical duties at 5 of the state's larger hospitals. Montana hospitals are facing critical staff shortages right now. Many staffers have had to quarantine and can't work either because of contracting COVID-19 or being in contact with those who do have it. Well, Governor Bullock's office says it expects that federal funds ultimately will pay the cost of the temporary medical staffing help. There is hope that a COVID vaccine will be available soon, but a lot of questions about how the process will work once it does happen. Today, the Montana Department of Health and Human Services announced a statewide team that will help communicate those answers. The state external COVID-19 vaccination plan coordination team, made up of Montana medical, tribal, government, and community leaders, will also give feedback as the process rolls out. Montanans need to realize, though, that no matter what happens, it won't be an instant fix.
This first initial round of vaccine, once it becomes available next month, will be available on a limited basis to the frontline workers, the frontline healthcare workers, those at most risk for COVID, and things like that. And so for most Montanans, it won't be available until later on in 2021.
The draft plan is to distribute the vaccine in a three-phase approach. Phase 1 within the first 2 months after it becomes available. This goes to targeted critical workforce. That includes essential responders and people at the highest risk. Phase 2 will be between 3 and 6 months. That includes expanded dispensing. This is the second dosing for Phase 1 recipients as well, and the first dosing for prioritized groups. And then Phase 3, 6 months and beyond, they'll be expanding and normalizing distribution and public dispensing. At this point, it's believed that there will be a sufficient supply. Tomorrow will be the first the new coordination team. Even before families get together for the holidays, South Dakota is seeing a surge in coronavirus numbers. South Dakota had more deaths per capita last week than any other state. One expert says the state has the highest hospitalizations per capita in the country. Despite the grim numbers, South Dakota's governor has yet to put a mask mandate in place and was quoted recently as saying, "I'm not going to stop you or even discourage you from thanking God and spending time together this Thanksgiving." The mayor of Sioux Falls says simply, South Dakotans don't want to be told what to do.
Cowboy country, man, and you try and tell someone to do something and they want to do the opposite as a result.
Sioux Falls is putting in a restriction on themselves, but South Dakota in general doesn't care at all whether or not there's a mask mandate or any restrictions to help COVID at all.
South Dakota has an average of 48 flu deaths per year. Compare that to 42 new COVID-related deaths just within the last 24 hours. Their neighbors, North Dakota, ranks first in the country in new COVID-19 cases per capita with 2,418 new cases per 100,000 people over the past 2 weeks. 1 in every 86 people in North Dakota tested positive in the past week, and November's on track to become North Dakota's deadliest month from COVID-19. 840 people have already passed away there since the pandemic began. All right, turning to Chris DeRose for a first look at weather and time for a little trivia, huh, Chris?
Yeah, I got a nice trivia question for you and everybody watching at home. What was the warmest temperature ever recorded on Thanksgiving Day in Billings, Montana? Was it A, 82 degrees, B, 76 degrees, C, 71 degrees, or D, 69 degrees? Russ, what do you think?
I'm going with A.
You're going with A, 82 degrees. The answer is C, 71 degrees. It's set back in 2017. Now take a look at this. Also, the coldest Thanksgiving Day in Billings history was minus 16 in 1985. So that was a very, very cold day. But there you go. There's your little Thanksgiving trivia quiz. Now we got a full forecast coming your way, and it's not nearly going to be that hot, and it's not nearly going to be that cold. So stay tuned. We'll tell you more in a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Chris. A Billings man is behind bars tonight, facing possible kidnapping and assault charges. 37-year-old Adam Wilson was arrested after officers were called to the Sure Stay Hotel shortly before 2:30 Sunday morning. That's where Wilson was allegedly holding a 56-year-old Billings woman against her will. Lieutenant Brandon Woolley says officers were able to de-escalate the situation, but no other details were released. Wilson is being held in the Yellowstone County Jail. And some sad news to pass along in Yellowstone County. Longtime Yellowstone County Justice of the Peace Pedro Hernandez has died. Hernandez's death was noted in a Facebook post this morning by the Yellowstone County Sheriff's Office. That post states, "Your impact in this community goes far and wide." Hernandez served as a judge for 42 years before he retired in November 2017 at the age of 76. Still ahead on the MTN 10 o'clock news, here on Q2, we meet a lame deer man who is turning the loss of a loved one into a way to help others. That story coming up next. And then in sports, a legendary venue as the PBR takes center stage on a World War II ship. Scott will tell us about that a little later.